Many of you guys got pretty upset at the video I made yesterday where the title was Session is a Massive Disappointment. And I called it Skate 0.4 and Tony Hawk's Unproven Ground. I didn't initially want to make this video because it was going to come off like I was very salty and just complaining the entire time. But people want to hear exactly why I have the opinions I do, so fuck it, let's do it. All right, so we're going to start with 4 major points, and then we'll go over them after. I'm just going to let you guys know what they are beforehand. 1. The gameplay is flawed. 2. They scammed us. 3. Session and Skater XL cannot coexist. 4. The Session community sucks. All right, let's start with gameplay. Why is it bad? Why do I hate it? And what can they do to possibly make it better? Personally, I don't think they're going to do much to make the gameplay better because it's already been 3 years and the gameplay for the most part feels exactly the same. And all the improvements they have tried to make for the game feel significantly worse each time they let them out. Fundamentally, the animations were made all before the physics were implemented. If there's any physics at all, it really feels like there's no physics. So it makes the user experience feel almost like a entirely delayed experience. Animations really make you feel detached from the game. You input things before they happen on screen, almost like a old wrestling game. The input delay that the game has only really serves to magnify that, as the game, it really won't even register inputs on a consistent basis. So you can do something over and over and over again exactly the same way on the controller, and sometimes it'll just fucking bail out and do something weird, and sometimes it'll work every time. So sometimes you can scoop and flick at the same time, and sometimes you have to scoop before you flick. All the tricks look the same. So they kind of gave us a spiel that the games did have physics and you can pick how fast your tricks look and how fast you scoop things. And that is true to a certain extent. But when you complete all the tricks and you do a million tray flips and you do a million nollie tray flips, you start to see that the tricks are exactly the same every single time. The animation is exactly the same every single time. What you're controlling is the speed of the animation at which it plays on your screen. It's almost like you're controlling a skater on strings instead of actually being the skater in the game controlling the board. The way the grinds work right now are almost exactly like Tony Hawk's system. So when you ollie towards a ledge and you're above it, now you have to input the directions on the sticks for the grind that you want. You cannot simply ollie at a ledge or a rail and land into a crooked by having your nose pointed into a direction to land into a crooked. You have to input a crooked on your stick and then land onto the ledge. So that is literally exactly how Tony Hawk grind system works. And the fact that people can be okay with this and somehow don't hate it is just shocking to me because it's a huge step backwards. And grinding is one of the most fun parts in any skateboarding experience if you're a hardcore skateboarding game player, and it completely ruins it. Reverts. Oh my god, reverts. So the way they have reverts set up right now is to double tap the triggers. And the way you turn is obviously to tap the triggers or to hold the triggers to turn. You can see the issue, right? If you're trying to turn on a small ledge that turns left and then right or right twice, you have to double tap the trigger slowly and then it'll force you to revert. So trying to maneuver on tight ledges is nearly impossible and completely counterintuitive. Flick to catch. So I played for about 6-7 hours on this build with the auto catch mode off. And the way you catch tricks in this game is by flicking the stick in a direction. So remember how you have to choose the inputs before you hit a grind, and you have to choose the inputs before you do a flip trick. So all of these things have delay tied to them. 1 second before you do a flip trick, you have to input what flip you want. And then as you're in the air, you have to flick into whatever direction with whichever stick you want to catch the board. And then you have to flick the sticks and hold them in the direction that correlates of the grind that you want to land into despite the direction that you're approaching the ledge. Just to do a kickflip, backside, tail slide, you would have to input something like 8 or 9 different things before you even make contact with the ledge. And the way the game works right now with so much input delay, that's nearly impossible to do in a way that actually looks good. The game overall is very, very frustrating to play with auto catch mode off because flicking the sticks is getting in the way of choosing the directions with the sticks that you want to land into grinds for. If the grinds worked physics based, where you could just ollie onto a ledge, and whatever direction your board is facing and how it lands on the ledge, it would grind. I think this would work a lot better because you would just be able to do the trick, catch it with the flick system, and then hold the sticks in whatever direction you are that correlates to the ledge. It's a very Tony Hawk-like experience. There's also the switch logic. So I don't hate the way switch works in this game. It works differently from Skater XL, where the controls get flipped, almost like real Switch in EA Skate. In Session, they work like Goofy works in Skater XL, where the sticks just switch. Everything just gets flipped. So that's fine. The problem with this is, so say you 180 into a Switch manual and you're holding up on the left stick. Now the Switch controls are completely switched, and you're doing a nollie tray motion to switch tray out instead of a switch tray motion, which is on the other stick in the game. So the logic is flipping depending on the situation that you're in. Makes no fucking sense at all. After like 3-something years of game development since the first time we saw this game, there has been almost no improvement in the actual gameplay. I tried all the Kickstarter tiers. I paid $80 to the Kickstarter. We only got 2 developer tiers in that entire time, and gameplay has remained very much the same. The animations all look exactly the same except for little things like pushing, the running, the walking, and that's basically it. All the animations are exactly the same. I don't know what the fuck they've been doing with that, but it's pretty disappointing. All right, now how did they scam us? So this is a pretty simple one. People who pay for the final release of the game in Kickstarter are being denied early access keys that were locked behind a higher paywall. So they had a very predatory Kickstarter campaign, which had super convoluted tiers that didn't really explain exactly what you got. And anyone who spent under $60 thought that they were going to receive early access builds because it said that they were going to get a copy of the game. Really what that meant was a copy of the final release of the game. Truly, you had to spend over $60 to get the early access release of the game. So anybody who spent $60 or less on the Kickstarter didn't receive an early access key, and all they received was two developer builds within 3 years. The third one, and I think this is a big one that gets very much overlooked. Can Session and Skater XL coexist? I think it's a hard no. And if you look at the history of video games, it's always been a hard no. Never been a single point in video game history where 2 skateboarding games were successful at the same time. And on top of that, this is the first time where multiple games are competing over the same small community, which is the hardcore skateboarding community. So you have to understand analytics to understand why 2 skateboarding games is actually a terrible thing for both games. If you look back, when Tony Hawk reigned supreme, it reigned supreme. There were other games that weren't successful, but they were there. When Skate reigned supreme, it completely washed out Tony Hawk. There were 2 games there. One was successful, one wasn't. After Skate died, we now have these new crop of skateboarding games that are specifically targeting a hardcore community. And that's both Skater XL and Session. And what both games are lacking is a grasp on the casual community. The casual community is ultimately what decided whether Skate won or Tony Hawk won. And we saw with Skate that a hardcore community alone cannot make a game prosper. Even with the millions of dollars of profit that Skate was making on an annual basis, it still wasn't profitable enough for EA to continue making. It really doesn't make sense when people are going around saying that, thank God we got 2 good skateboarding games that we can both support, but they don't realize that at the end of the day, if neither one of these skateboarding games pulls away from each other, they're both at risk of dying due to low population. And the final reason why Session sucks so much to me, at least that I'm explaining in this video, is the community. All right, the Session community. This is probably the easiest case to make because it's a cesspool of morons. And I'll give you a little bit of backstory. I've been following this game for 3.5 years. I ran a website for it, fakeskate.com. I've hosted dozens of contests on a weekly basis, sometimes on a daily basis. I was the most successful content creator outside of people like Nightspeeds, Albert, and Toasty, like people who already made skateboarding content on the channel beforehand. And I supported this game with my time and money for a very, very, very long time. There's 35K people in the Skater XL Discord, and that's without a major Kickstarter or no real marketing plan. And 100% of the focus being on gameplay before graphics. So you really have to try Session to experience why it sucks so much, and you really have to try Skater XL to experience why it's so good. Session has a community of a few thousand, and if you criticize the game, you immediately get banned. You can go try this right now, make an alternate Discord account, go into the Discord and say, hey, this part of the game doesn't look good, and then watch your account get deleted in 2 minutes. So it's not really conductive to criticism, and I don't exactly think that's the developer's fault. I think it's the people that they chose to moderate their communities, and they're putting themselves in a constant echo chamber. So if you go on this Skater XL Discord, you can see plenty of people criticizing the game on a consistent basis. Sure, we have plenty of good things to say about it, and we have plenty of bad things to say about it. The important thing is that we're allowed to say whatever the fuck we want about it. And the developers see this, and they use this to their advantage. The final point. Session has been harboring racists in their Discord. Meet 40-ounce Slumlord, a frequent user and respected member of the Session community. And this is his avatar. He's been parading blackface for months on end, and anyone who mentioned it got banned. Eventually, I messaged one of the Session developers and told them about it, and he, I think, messaged the guy and got him to change his profile picture. But this resulted in me getting banned from the Session Discord and him not facing any punishment at all. I don't think this is a real big reflection on the beliefs of the Session developers, but I do think it's something that people should take in consideration because their moderation team is a cesspool. Anybody who invites this type of bigotry and anyone who tolerates this type of bigotry within their community and protects them is disgusting.